So in the last video we went over if statements, which can be used as expressions, and that is to check whether something is true or false, and depending on whether it's true or false, it will execute an action. And in this video I want to go over the when statement. And the when statement corresponds to the switch statement in Java, so it is used to check whether an item is a certain item, and depending on what it is, it will have many different outputs, and it is just used to simplify giving different outputs and executing different actions based on what parameter you put in or what value is given. But let's get started immediately by creating a print statement. So the first one we're going to do is print enter a number, and right under we're going to do value number is going to equal read line, which must not be null, and it's going to be 2 ints. So we need to make sure we enter an integer when we read this line, or else the program will crash. But we're not going to handle that exception in this video. We're just going to enter an int and pretend that we will know to only enter an int. Then we're going to copy and paste this real quick. It's going to be enter another number, and it's going to be number 2. So there we go. And then down here we're going to write print line, and it's going to say enter an operator, and we're going to have plus, minus, asterisk symbol, or slash. Then we're going to write value operator is going to equal read line, and down here we're going to create a value of result, which is going to use this when expression to check which operator we insert. So we're going to write operator, and we are going to create a block, and when the operator is a plus symbol, we can just create this small arrow. With the interpolation symbol, we are going to write number plus number 2 equals, and then we need to interpolate the entire expression. So we're going to do number plus number 2. And then we can go down here and say when it equals the minus symbol, we can go and write another arrow. And to simplify this, I'm actually just going to copy and paste the first one and change them all accordingly. For the first one we want it to be a minus, the second one the third one we want to be an asterisk, and the final one we want to be a slash. And then we need to fix all of these as well. So minus, asterisk, slash, and finally over here, minus, asterisk, and slash. And if they enter something that's a bit funky, we're just going to write else operator is not recognized. And finally, we need to print this result. So we're going to write down here print line, and we can just enter the result. And when we run this program, it'll tell us to enter a number. So I'll go first with 17, and then I'll enter 12. And then I need to pick an operator. So whether I want to divide it, multiply it, or subtract it. So let's just go for multiplying. And it will tell you 17 times 12 is 204. So this is really great for simplifying expressions that need to know which input a user has put in. And it does not have to be an expression. You can actually just take this away, and it can be used as a statement. So you can definitely just write print line in each one of these, but I think it was easier just to write all of this and add print line at the bottom. And that is the first example of how to use the when statement. Now I want to show you a few other ways, and for this I'm just going to copy and paste it in because it's going to be a bit easier. So the next way to use a when statement is to check whether a number is in a range. So this is between 1 and 10 is inclusive, of course. So if we actually run this program, you'll see that it will print this statement down here because 50 is a number in between 10 and 100 inclusive. And that's a good way to check within a range what something is. And then we have another way to do this. If you want to be much more specific, you can actually just set a comma here and here, and of course you need to remove these, and here we'll write 1 or 10, and actually we can't put this here because it's redundant, so we'll put 11, and here we can write 11 or 100. So when a is 1 or 10, it will print line 1 or 10. When it's 11 or 100, it will print 11 or 100. So let's just put 1 here, and you'll see it prints 1 or 10. And you can also use this for strings. So let's pretend you were writing a string like hello or goodbye. And here you will write nice, or you can write bad. And then we're just going to change this to a string. So we're going to write goodbye. And here we can put a response as goodbye, good sir, or cool. So it also works for strings and other values. Whatever you feel like inserting there should work pretty nicely. Here's a very simple bot that just responds to these inputs, and you can create a lot of good stuff with this. So we will just continue on with the final example that I have. And I'm just going to copy and paste it in one more time. So this is the final example I have. So the first thing I did here is create a variable called number, and it has been initialized with the value 1. And then here we have an if expression where we're going to create a variable of x, and if the number is more than 20, we're going to return the string hello. Else if the number is less or equal to 1, we're going to return the number 2. And finally, if it is none of these above, if it's between 1 and 20, we are going to return a list of numbers. And you might be asking, why did I make this so complicated? Well, I'll show you immediately right under what it is used for. So essentially, you can also use this is keyword to check whether it is an int, a string, or a list, or whatever type you want to check. So we can check whether x is an int. If it turns out that it's number 2, you'll have this block of code get executed. If you write when and it says, it's an int, you can also check when that int is one of these two numbers, it will execute these two lines of code. So this is just a nested when expression. But it also can check if it's a string, and if it's a string, it will execute this line of code, and if it's a list, it will execute this line of code. So it's also good for checking whether it is a certain type. And yeah, let's run this program just to see what it does. So we entered the number of 1, and it should return 2, which means we should get this print line of goodbye. And as you can see, it printed goodbye. And let's just try to see what happens if we turn it into a string. So we need to put this number to 10, so it's between 1 and 20. And right there we have 1, 2, 3, so it printed all the numbers here. And finally, we can check what happens if it is a string. So we're just going to put the number 100. So this if statement will evaluate to being hello. And let's click on play. And there we go. It adds the length of this string plus 1, so you will get the output of 6. And that is essentially how you use when statements. They can be used as expressions, they can be used as statements, and they are used for saving time. I believe I've covered the major part of how to use the when statement, and I will end this video here. Anyways, thanks for watching,